This is going to be an interesting one because things have changed. Virgin Voyages tipping and gratuities in 2026. We are breaking down all the things that you need to know because things have changed and there's lots of confusion out there. So in today's podcast episode, we are talking about tipping and gratuities.
Ahoy, I'm Christine Lozada.
And I'm JC, top Virgin Voyages travel agent. Welcome to the podcast.
This is the Virgin Voyages Tips Podcast, an insider guide to navigating Virgin Voyages like a pro. Find it on every podcasting platform, on YouTube, and check the show notes for additional helpful info.
And how I can get you a great deal.
Let's dive in.
All right, we're going to kick it off, JC, with just understanding how gratuities work on Virgin Voyages, because nothing has changed, right?
Yeah, nothing has really changed, honestly. I think the misconception out there is that gratuities are extra on top of the cruise fare.
Yep.
And honestly, they're really not. They have discounted the cruise fare. So let's say a cruise used to be $2,100. That included a $100 gratuities in there. Today, what they did is they lowered the cost of the cruise by $100. So the cruise is $2,000, and then you add the $100 for the gratuities. So it's really not an increase.
Which it just looks different. But I think the key thing here is it looks different versus the way Virgin used to do it.
Yes.
Now Virgin is doing it more like other cruise lines.
Correct.
To show that pricing transparency. And that's what's confusing a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is that both, and we'll break down the costs of the gratuities, but it's also just how it looks. Because people were not looking at it before, and now they're looking at it. And for a lot of people who've never cruised before, it's confusing to see that line item versus if you cruise all the time, you're used to seeing that line item.
Correct.
Yeah, so the cost of gratuities is one of the main things that confuses people. Break that down for us.
So if you prepay your gratuities, it's $20 per day per sailor. So if you're on a 5-night sailing, it's going to be $200. If you do not prepay your gratuities, then it's going to be $22 per day per sailor.
Per sailor. And there's something interesting about that, which is if you're waiting to pay once you're on board, which book you're sailing with us will get you some sailor loots.
Yes.
You can technically use your sailor loot to pay those gratuities.
You can, yeah.
Which is an interesting way of doing it, but you could just be stress-free, take care of it, save those $2 per sailor per day by paying ahead of time. But I think one thing that's important to know is that once those gratuities are paid, nothing else is expected.
No.
There's no, tipping on the ship. There's no need for cash. But it is helpful to know that the porters, when you get to the port to drop off your luggage, those are port employees. That's not Virgin Voyages crew. And so it's important to know that you might, if this, tipping is up to you. If you want to tip the porters, make sure you're bringing money for that because those are not Virgin crew. Those are port employees. We will debate later about how we might. I mean, I asked Nirmal, the CEO, I told him, I was like, Virgin is a no tipping culture, but because all y'all have a lot to say about the way I spend my money, which the last time I checked, I should be the one that's in charge of how I spend my money and also how I spend I'm just kidding, JC. And your money, I'm just kidding. It's up to you. And when I told Nirmal, I want to tip the crew. I want to show my additional thanks. He's like, go ahead. And I was like, that's the answer I expected. Yeah. In the same way, if you do or don't, go ahead, right? You don't need my approval. You're an adult. This is an adults only cruise line. Nothing's changed about that, right? So nothing's actually changed around tipping once you're on board. That is completely up to everyone. But we've talked about this $20 per sailor if you are paying before the cruise, $22 once you're on. But there's also a lot of crazy nuances. And I think before I release JC to talk about some of these nuances, the most important part is that when you have a first mate who understands how these things work, we will hold your hand and walk you through it. So give us a high level of what some of these things look like, because that October 7th, 2025 date is pretty important.
Yeah, no, for sure. So if you booked prior to October 7th, you're going to be in a legacy fare where you do not have to pay gratuities. But let's say you make a change, and a change being that you want to change the date of your sailing. If you do change the date of your sailing, you will have to pay gratuities on that new date. If you change the room type, you do not have to pay gratuities. So that is a big one, because a lot of people are, that's so easy to change the date on Virgin. You can easily change the date. With other cruise lines, you have to pay like a change fee. With Virgin, you don't. But you have to remember that if you book prior to October 7th, you will have to pay gratuities on the new sailing.
And it's also important to note that, yes, you are paying gratuities, but it's not like you weren't paying before and you're paying now. It's just how that line item is separated out looks different before October 7th versus after, right? They just bundled in versus separate line item. And I think that's helpful to know because, and those gratuities, right? They're going straight to the crew, 100% of it, and it's covering everyone, right? Everyone from your crew at the wait staff, your crew in the rooms, your crew in behind the scenes, like it's everybody. So that's important to know.
Yeah, and if you do decide later, because this happens quite a bit, to add another passenger to your room, you will, and you booked before October 7th, you will have to pay gratuities on just that one person.
I've had to do that. That's what happens when you add your credit card and cover everyone that's on the sailing.
And what I tell a lot of people that book with me, I'm like, if you think you're going to have a passenger two later, add them now in the very beginning. Because one thing is that the price of the sailing could change. Now you're paying the additional fare amount on that sailor too.
I understand. Okay, love it. I also think, so before we debate tipping, are there any other nuances that people need to know about?
Those are the big ones, honestly. Those are the main ones.
And I also know that if you guys have more questions, that's what we're here for. And so tipping, let's get into the debate.
Ahoy, sailors. Quick announcement from Christine popping in to remind you that the show notes or the description of this podcast has a ton of helpful info that most sailors miss. And one thing that's in there is a killer deal. There is a reason why other travel agents book with us. And even if you've already booked your sailing, it takes just 2 steps and 10 seconds to get a price comparison with us. So check the description and let's get back to the episode.
Thanking the crew. All right, so we've talked it. We're about to debate tipping, our tipping. But one way that I always encourage people to thank the crew is through that survey. It really is a big deal because you're getting the survey. You're getting the survey not just at the end, but throughout. Are you filling out the survey throughout, JC?
I do, yeah.
You want to know how I know? Is I will fill it out and then I will go back to that restaurant the next day or to that bar the next day. And they're like, they read your comment in front of everybody. I was like, oh man, I always write all my comments in all caps with an asterisk of please read as yelling because I love the crew that much. So filling out the survey, super important for the crew. That's a big one. Tipping. Do you tip on top of the tips that we now pay as a separate line item on Virgin Voyages? When? Why and when?
Yeah, so not all the time, but especially if I'm getting like really great service, I for sure do. The room steward, for sure. Because I drink a lot of water, so I'm always like, can you get more water? So, at the bars, for sure. But I do quite often.
For me, I really see it as, so 2 things. One, I definitely feel like Virgin Voyages crew goes above and beyond other cruise lines. And I think part of that secret sauce is how Virgin Voyages really encourages them to be themselves. So that means they are really personable. It means I've seen all of Kevin at Rojo's pictures of his kids, and I have dance salsa in Pink Agave After Dark with, this list, I'm not even gonna go down this list. Like, they encourage the crew to be themselves, right? They can show their tattoos. They can show their wild hair color. They can fill in the blank. And as a result of that, they can be more personable with the sailors. And as a result of that, it allows them to give service at a higher level because they're truly caring for the sailor the way they want to. And they're really looking out for us, which is really nice versus like, this is the way you need to do it, which is sometimes, not always, sometimes what I experience on other cruise lines. And so I don't see it as I went into the coffee shop at Starbucks and it's an automatic 22% gratuity. Like, I don't see it that way.
Yeah.
But genuinely, when it is above and beyond service, I like to show my thanks because, let's be real, they're all there working. We're here working, book your sailing with us. They're all there working, and they're not there for funsies. They're there to make money. And so the best way to thank them is not giving them Hershey's chocolates, although that is a nice thing. Some people do that. I like to show them with money. And so in the instances that I tip, I mean, sometimes, here's an example. I'm dining at the wake. They do not have the exact fill in the blank drink I want to drink. They go to another bar and get it. They are still able to tap my band and charge me for it, and they bring it back, right? Not everyone can do that. Depends on how busy it is. But that's a really nice above and beyond service.
Yeah, for sure.
Room storage's another one, right?
Yeah.
I'm also a camel. I drink tons of water. But sometimes they do some above and beyond extra things in the room that really help you to be more comfortable, whether checking in on you for additional towels or just in general. Like, I'll spend time with my cabin attendant at the beginning of every sailing. I need to borrow the steamer for 2 hours on Scarlet Night. I need 15 extra hangers. I need a mattress topper on my bed. I need the bed split, whatever it is. And when I have lots of requests, which I often do, right? I want to show my thanks, and I am generally tipping around that.
Yeah.
The exact numbers I tip, I put that in my printable guide. Did you know that?
No.
In my secret guide, I not only have, you should read my latest secrets in there, but I also talk about literally how much I tip each time, because there's a range depending on the level of service, in case you want something to wrap your head around. All right. I wonder how badly we're going to get eaten alive in the comments for actually tipping on top. It doesn't happen all the time, but I definitely bring a ton of cash on the ship. Ooh, and another helpful tip for tipping is sometimes I don't always have like a stack of 100 ones, right? I might bring a $50 bill or a $20 bill to the casino where the cash, what do they call it? The window where they give the money.
The cashier.
The cashier.
Yeah.
I'll go to the cashier and I'll ask for change. And that's where I'll take care of that. So that's helpful to know. And also there's hidden ATMs. Do you know where the 2 hidden ATMs are on the ship?
One's got to be in the casino.
It is in the casino. Do you know where the other one is?
The other one, Sailor Services.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
it? Okay.
But it's hidden in Sailor Services. So as soon as you walk in the door of Sailor Service, actually there's technically 3 entrances. Never mind. The main door for Sailor Services, as soon as you walk in, it's in the right, in like a little cubby hole on the side. So that's helpful to know. So there are ATMs around the ship. All right, tipping. So Virgin Voyages is just like every cruise line, right?
Yes.
And I know that everyone's going to ask, what does it mean if you want to remove the tips? We're just going to leave it at that. They're like every other cruise line. Check the description if you want more helpful info about exactly what that means. And we're going to keep it at that. Tipping on Virgin Voyages, that's what you need to know. If you have questions, we're here for you.
This has been another episode of Virgin Voyages Tips Podcast. If it was helpful, please share it with somebody. And we want you to book your sailing with us. We'd love to help you set sail because we're here for you every step of the way. A reminder to check the show notes. Things on Virgin Voyages changes all the time, and you'll find more helpful links and resources in the description. We'll see you in the next episode.